James Schramko here. Welcome back to my podcast. This is episode 1116. And today we're talking about alcohol. We'll be talking with James Swanwick, who's just published a book yesterday, in fact, called Clear, the only neuroscience-based method for high achievers to finally break free from alcohol. Welcome, James.
Thank you, James.
We have podcasted before, and I get to speak to you on a regular basis in life, which I'm grateful for. In fact, you have shaped my own views and thoughts on alcohol as I'm constantly exposed to your social media information, your behind-the-scenes research, and in particular, the academic university research project that you did was very interesting to me. And now you've published a book. So thought it'd be a good time to catch up and just discuss this topic. Now, if I have a quick look at your qualifications, you're an Australian, but American as well. And you've been helping people stop drinking alcohol for many years. You've got your own program over at alcoholfreelifestyle.com. There's information about this book that we're talking about too at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/clear. And I'm just curious, if we just even start with the title, High Achievers Finally Breaking Free from Alcohol, the first obvious question I have is, should all high achievers be looking to break free from alcohol?
Yes, and I'll tell you why.
That was very certain. There was no ambiguity there.
I would submit most high achievers who own a business and they're drinking to relieve stress at the end of the day. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about an alcoholic, someone who's getting a DUI, who's hit rock bottom. I'm talking about the socially acceptable entrepreneur who's having 2 or 3 drinks many nights, if not most nights of the week. Now, those seemingly innocent drinks are compromising your sleep, which is leading you to be irritable and foggy and distracted the following day. And then the vicious cycle continues. And so, even though we've been culturally conditioned to think that a couple of drinks here or there is fine, the consequence of those couple of drinks is that we're operating at about what I would submit a 6 out of 10 compared to what we could operate at, which is more towards a 9 out of 10. Now, from a financial point of view, for a high achiever, the financial cost between operating at a 6 out of 10 with fogginess, distractedness, not making a couple of additional sales calls, not building that funnel, procrastinating, and a 9 out of 10 where you're consistently alcohol free, when you've got clarity and focus and energy and you produce that funnel and you hire that person and you don't procrastinate and you're in flow, the difference financially can be hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. So from a purely ROI perspective, getting rid of the attractively packaged poison that we call alcohol can actually generate you hundreds of thousands of dollars more or even millions of dollars more.
That's pretty compelling. I notice that a lot of that hinges on sleep. And I remember your background in eyeglasses that block blue light, sleeping products. You've done a lot of stuff in that area. Did that come first before the alcohol? Was the alcohol like, oh, this is what's stopping the sleep?
Interestingly, I started those companies simultaneously in
Right.
2015. It was actually March of 2015.
It's a decade ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago. It was ridiculous. I was living in West Hollywood, California at the time, and I was actually being mentored by a pretty, I was going to say famous, but let's call it infamous mentor named Ty Lopez, who was very famous for those Lamborghini commercials. You know, I'm here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini, and so I was actually being mentored by him 10 years ago, 2015, up in the Hollywood Hills, and I just had this idea to help people stop drinking because I noticed I was going to these Ty Lopez parties and I was the only alcohol-free person, and people were noticing and asking me, "How are you dancing on tables and having a good time and you're not drinking?" And that was when the idea hit me. Maybe I could actually create a little online program to support people. And then at the same time, I met a gentleman named Mark Dharma, who's become a good friend. He's a British expat, and he was wearing these really ugly Uvex orange safety goggles around at nighttime. And I was saying, "What are you doing? You look like a meth chemist." And he was saying, "Oh, no, I'm trying to block the blue light." And so I actually had this idea, I'm going to create a pair of stylish blue blockers. So I started my e-commerce company literally in the same month as I started my stop drinking company, which in hindsight probably wasn't the best thing to do because the man who chases two rabbits catches neither. But um, yeah, I did. That's what I did. And the Swanwick Sleep Blue Blockers company actually did incredibly well in the first year. We did $1 million in sales, and the stop drinking business did like $10,000 in sales. But now it's just done a complete flipperoonie, and the stop drinking business is now wildly successful, and the Blue Blockers business is only modestly successful.
Well, I don't know if it's a confirmation bias, but since I've been working with you in mentoring program, I keep seeing news articles and research reports, even debunking old reports where it said, a glass of red wine a day is good for you because it relaxes you, because they discovered that it was based on flawed data. It seems over the last 10 years that there's a massive shift in general social environments that you don't have to be a hardcore drinker.
Yeah, there's definitely a tidal wave of change happening in society right now. Millennials have never drunk less. The new generation coming in, folks who are now in their late teens and early 20s, are turning their back on alcohol. The liquor companies are absolutely scrambling because that generation is just literally saying no and instead drinking alcohol free alternatives. And those alcohol free alternative companies have exploded. There's dozens of them starting up. I'm
I think
actually
there's
an
entire
investor.
bottle shops opening, right? Like non-alcohol
Yeah.
bottle shops.
Yeah, there was one in Brisbane in Australia.
One in Manly.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. Now, I don't think they were very successful at the time, but I was told reliably recently that they've become increasingly so. So I think maybe, even a few years ago, people were still kind of like scratching around the surface, kind of dipping their toe in the water about this thing called sober curious. But now it's actually become socially acceptable to not drink. And also, I'm seeing a lot more entrepreneurs wearing their alcohol-free lifestyle as a badge of honor and commenting about how their productivity has soared, but not just their productivity, their home life, their marital strain that they once had has disappeared. They're now present with their children where once before they weren't, just from getting those toxins out of the system. So yes, we're seeing a big cultural change happening. I think it's too early to declare that alcohol is looked upon with the same disdain that we look at cigarettes. But I'm pretty sure in 20 to 30 years, it will be that way. We'll look back on alcohol with the same level of scrutiny as we do today cigarettes.
It's like when we see those ads, the old ads of doctors talking about their favorite cigarette, and apparently that it's not so much even the nicotine that's bad, it's all the other bits when you're burning it and the impurities and the paper and the ink and stuff. I'm not an expert on it, but I follow Formula One, and I do see commercials for beer brands with their zero alcohol beer with famous Formula One drivers saying, don't drink, and then you can still drive your nice car home. It's definitely gone more mainstream, in my view, anyway. And I've noticed something about myself. In the last few years, I've become very, very interested in quality of sleep. And I also made a conscious decision not to use alcohol as a crutch to deal with stress or pressure. And if you take it away from the table, if it's not an option for you, then you have to find other ways to deal with it. And I've found no better superpower than sleep. I know it doesn't pay pharmaceutical companies well, but when I read some of the books on sleep, I was shocked at how many accidents, how many mistakes, how many poor decisions, how many relationships were blown up because of lack of sleep. And then when I did have a sleep expert on my podcast many, many years ago, he said the number one reason for lack of sleep is alcohol. It just completely disrupts. It's like throwing a grenade into your bedroom for sleep. And that really changed the game. And I can most definitely observe a shift if alcohol is consumed in my own sleep patterns, and that's why I hardly drink anymore. I wonder if there's a big difference between never drinking or drinking like once a year for New Year's Eve, having a champagne or something. Is that a slippery slope?
It can be a slippery slope, but if you're only drinking on occasion, it's fine. Like,
I
it
reckon I
is
drink
fine.
once every 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's not going to do anything, right? But you said two words there, slippery slope. And it is a very slippery slope. And I can't tell you how many clients come to our coaching program at Alcohol Free Lifestyle where they've done dry January successfully. They've done sober October successfully. They've done only drinking on weekends successfully. But the slippery slope has got them. And very soon they're back to drinking the same levels of alcohol that got them motivated to do dry January and sober October in the first place. So if you can truly moderate, great job. You do you. But I'll tell you this, most of our clients say the following: moderation is a myth.
Yeah. Well, I can see that. I mean, it has parallels with things like eating. People who eat way too much and then have to go on a big diet, and then they eat way too much and go on a big diet. Yo-yo is very common, and they're usually eating as a comfort or to deal with pressure or stress or lack of sleep. Most certainly, that's the craziest thing. I had there was one night last week where I missed out on some sleep. I only had 5 or 6 hours sleep, which is way short for me. And the next day I was ravenous. I was so hungry. I need to eat my way out of being tired. The reason that I lost the sleep was all heartfelt and warm and fuzzy. I spent about 7 hours a day for 6 days in a row building a playhouse for my daughter's birthday. But it pushed my work to the end of the day, and for a few days in a row, I just thought I'm going to have to sit down and do some stuff. It's been a week, stayed up all night, did it. The next day I was wrecked. And I actually remembered, oh my goodness, this is like through the vast majority of my professional career when I was just sleepless. And I connected with that old feeling, and I don't like that feeling. I know what it's like. And apparently a lot of adults have never actually felt this feeling of what it's like to be fully rested in this current era. And I think work weeks are creeping longer and longer and blurring with the advent of socials and so forth, to the point where they're now having to try and regulate it. I think they're regulating where an employer can't contact people on a weekend, that sort of stuff,
Mm.
because it's gotten so fuzzy. And people do spend 8 hours a day on their device. So I think this is such an important point. And I had a situation yesterday. A fitness friend of mine, he's a trainer and an athlete, and he's doing that dry thing, whatever. He declared to me, I'm 34 days sober, and he puffed up his chest, and it was like this huge badge of honor. And in my mind, I'm thinking, so what? And I'm sure in your circles, it's probably cause for praise or celebration, like, good job, well done. But I felt like I'd be giving out a participation award for the blinding obvious. And you know what I
Yeah.
said back, because I'm fairly direct. I said, honestly, I'm quite shocked as an athlete and a sports person that you even drink at all. I don't really understand it, because it's really just poison. He goes, yeah, but I always grew up, I was like the party guy, and I was like, I'm the good time guy, and I have some drinks, and I'm, doing the nightclub stuff. And then I said, oh, so you associated alcohol with good times. I said, I actually coach a guy who helps people stop drinking. And he'd probably say that's more of a behavior flaw that could be addressed in other ways. But now that I've got you on a podcast, what would you say to someone who has got a very strong association with only being able to have fun if you drink?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be there to hypnotize them, but I would certainly do my best to try to dehypnotize them about
Uh-huh.
alcohol and its place in their life. Let's go back to childhood, okay? So, when we're little boys and girls, we probably grew up with parents who drank, right? Or at least adult figures if we came in from a single home or we were looked after by someone else. And so, what mummy and daddy or this adult figure would say to us is, oh, no, no, little James, you can't drink wine. You can't drink alcohol. You get to drink that when you're older. And so our parents inadvertently, unknowingly at that point, cemented this idea in our mind that alcohol is something that we get to do when we're older. It's something that the adults do. And then, of course, we get to adulthood, and now there are smiling assassins everywhere. And a smiling assassin is a friend, a parent, a colleague, a boss, the waiter, the waitress who are smiling as they offer you alcohol. It's attractively packaged poison. That's all alcohol is. But of course, people are trying to be hospitable. They're trying to be nice. They're trying to
Well,
get you to buy
clearly in
something.
a restaurant, it's one of by far the most profit margin products on the
Absolutely.
menu, right?
Most restaurants only make profit from the sale
And that's
of
why they give you
liquor.
little nibbles and stuff, and they repeatedly offer you the drinks menu.
Yes. So this cultural conditioning has been cemented from when we were a child. So going back to referencing the gentleman that you ran into yesterday, of course, he associates alcohol with good times and pleasure because his whole life, from when he was probably 5 or 6 years old, he had adults in his life smiling, saying, no, no, little Johnny, whatever his name is, you can't drink. You get to do it when you're older. And then, of course, later on, he associates himself as the larrikin, the good guy, the one who comes to the party and everyone goes, oh, John, oh, geez, he had a few drinks last night. Oh, he's a good time. And it becomes this identity that's very, very hard to shake. And then what happens is the idea of not drinking alcohol is such an identity crisis because people start thinking, well, who will I be if I'm not drinking? And in this case of this gentleman you're referring to, if he's not the life of the party, if he's not associated as good time John, what will be left? He'll just be John. And that's a very, very scary concept for people, which is why people prolong their drinking, procrastinate, they don't take action. They're proud of being 37 days or whatever he was alcohol free. I would certainly commend him and say, great job, that's amazing. And I would certainly then try to dehypnotize him around worshiping at the altar of alcohol.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'm often finding myself in an environment where people are drinking, and the inner voice in my head thinks, observes behavior and thinks this is why people really shouldn't drink, right? People do the dumbest stuff, especially outside establishments late at night. There's any number of viral clips of people being idiots. It generally leads to super poor decision making, and it's probably all the way to tattoos and police lockups, but life changing dumb decisions, car crashes, etc.
Yeah. And a lot of the folks who I help, I mean, the sub headline of my book is the only neuroscience based method for high achievers to
Yeah.
finally break free from alcohol. So many of the folks who will probably read the book and find value in it won't be the type of people who are getting drunk and going out and getting tattoos, I would submit, because
Or
most
telling
of the
their boss
folks,
what they really think of them at the Christmas party.
that's right. Yeah. It's more like they're doing dumb things somewhat invisibly every single day over many days, weeks, months, years, and decades. It's like death by a thousand
Like
cuts,
shouting at your children.
like being irritable with your children,
Yeah.
like not being present with your wife or your husband, like being frustrated when you get a phone call from your parents who just want to connect with you, as opposed to, oh, my parents are calling me. Great, I get to connect with them. Like sleeping not nearly as well as you could sleep. And sleep is such an important factor for mental health, overall well being, strategic thinking, happiness, perception of outlook in life. In fact, just returning to what we were talking about regarding sleep and alcohol, you're actually better off drinking alcohol for breakfast than you are anywhere close to bedtime because at least then the body has 16 hours to get rid of the toxins that you've just consumed. Whereas what most people do unknowingly is that when they drink alcohol in the last few hours before they go to sleep, they're essentially clocking in for a night's work at a time when the body is not supposed to be working. The body is supposed to be resting. So when you drink alcohol within 3, 4, 5 hours of bedtime, you're literally going to work right throughout the night, which is why you wake up tired, lethargic, and then that shows up with yelling at your children, not being present with your children, drifting in your marriage or your relationship, procrastinating on choices you would ordinarily make with confidence in your business. So it really is and can be death by a thousand cuts. It's not necessarily got a DUI, said something stupid, crashed the car, got a
So it's
tattoo
really
in
the subtle
Bali.
things we should be more interested in, and they're probably going unnoticed.
That's exactly what it is.
Because I
It's
know
the
when you
subtle
sleep,
things.
that's when your body purges its toxins. And so if you tip toxins straight into your body just before that process, it would have to cancel out.
100%. And people have tracked this with an Aura ring. I'm wearing my Aura ring now, but
So
there
am
are other
I.
wearables.
I got,
Yeah.
I'm going for triple crowns like all day long.
Yeah. There was a gentleman, a client of ours, whose name is Evan Melcher, and he won't mind me using his name because he's gone in case studies and testimonials for us. But he's a financial services manager in Atlanta, Georgia, in the US. And when he came to us as a drinker, and he was drinking a good bottle of wine a night. He was on 5 different prescription medications, including trying to improve his sleep because he was having trouble sleeping. He had anti anxiety medication, he had high blood pressure, he had acid reflux, and there was something else which it escapes me right now. But in any case, he tracked his heart rate variability, his average heart rate, with his Aura ring in the months before he stopped drinking. And then, of course, during the 90-day process that he went through in our program when he stopped drinking, and then in the months afterwards. Would you believe that he estimates that when he stopped drinking, he's now saved himself 5 million heartbeats a year? That's how much his heart rate dropped as a result of stopping drinking alcohol. When he was drinking, heart rate, boom, 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 because the body's working. It's like trying to get rid of these toxins. It's unhealthy. And then as soon as he gets rid of the toxins, the body starts to heal, he starts to sleep well, the heart rate starts to slow down back to the way that nature intended it to beat. 5 million heartbeats he saved a year, he estimates, just from stopping drinking. That's incredible.
That is crazy. And I'm really into the biometric of it. I've got here my or it's blurred because of the camera, but I got a 86% sleep last night, which is a crown. But I can track the difference between taking magnesium or not in terms of deep sleep. It will add deep sleep to my sleeping and stuff. So I'm really tuned into it. But I know one thing: if you drink, it tends to make your body start cooking and like heating up and sweating. There you go. We're on the.
I'm showing James my Aura score
It's
from
almost
last night.
exactly
There's
the
a
same.
score of 87, yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
I'll tell you what else contributes to a great night's sleep is making sure that you get at least 10,000 steps in a day. I
correct.
like to walk, take
I know
meetings,
you do.
and
You're always walking when I talk to you. I got a 97 activity and an 87 readiness. And according to this thing, my cardiovascular is like um, the same as someone 10 years younger than me. So I'm not going to be jamming out a bottle of bourbon every night. But I tell you, also as a parent, this is something I've noticed. I feel with my first few kids, I was in my 20s, I was under a lot of pressure and I would have some alcohol probably most nights. And I was sleep deprived. If I were to characterize that decade or so, I would say that I was probably a bit angry. I was a bit of an angrier person. I'm the most chilled, relaxed, calm version of me now at this age, at this stage in life. And I've got a 6-year-old. But would it be fair to say if my 6-year-old's not seeing mum or dad drink pretty much ever, then that might be a good role model?
well, the answer is definitely yes. And I can say this with great certainty that stopping drinking alcohol is the greatest generational gift that you can provide your family.
Yeah.
Because when mum or dad is alcohol free consistently, they're more likely to be calm and peaceful and conscious. And little Johnny or little Sally, our son or our daughter, is going to grow up seeing that, never being exposed to their parents drinking alcohol and the consequences that come from that. And so their norm later on in life will just be, oh yeah, alcohol free, of course. Yeah, no, my parents never drank. And look, they might rebel for a phase of life and go and drink just to, be angry at mum and dad for a time in their teens. But really, that is going to influence their perception of life and their experience of life if mum and dad is alcohol free and living their best life. And I don't know of anything more impactful in this world than helping someone get off drugs, including alcohol. I know that the president of the United States can't make generational impact as much as helping someone get off alcohol. A judge can't do it, a police officer, an intervention from friends can't do it. But if you can support someone getting off alcohol, or if you can get off alcohol, there are so many generational impactful results from that. And what we now know about epigenetics, and epigenetics is the study of how our genes express themselves, even if your mother or father or your aunt or your uncle or a family member had an alcohol use disorder, and even if alcohol runs in the lineage of your family, you, with lifestyle choices and the environment that you put yourself in, can stop that alcoholic genetic influence. You can stop it. It's been proven repeatedly. And so think about the impact that would make in your family if you were consistently alcohol free.
I think that's an important one because I'm sure people just lean on that crutch. Like some people who are a bit overweight, they say, "Oh, our family has big bones," or But I saw a very overweight lady and a very overweight man the other day, and I saw their kid, and their kid was probably 7 or 8, and he was extremely overweight. And like, you cannot tell me that that kid is not like that because of the family habits and what's in their shopping cart, and they're just bringing him along for the ride by the look of it. And I've seen this in the case of one of my grown-up kids. The last time we caught up, he told me he's really kind of stopped drinking. And that was kind of shocking to me because he didn't mind a drink. And it could have been, he could have said that's come from family lineage, but he's made it a change, much like I have. And I don't know if I've informed that in any way, but I've never really been drinking around him for the last 5 years. And maybe he noticed, maybe not. And he's his own person, so I don't want to put any credit where it's not due. But it was really, like, I felt that's fantastic. It was such good news, and everything around his life seems to be flourishing, probably because of that. And I'm wondering, if we pick on the neuroscience part of your book title, I know from being an insider, I guess, into your world, that you did a comprehensive university study on this. Can you just speak more to the neuroscience aspect of this? Because I think that potentially is the differentiator, well, according to your title, it is, between this book and all the other books about not drinking alcohol.
The traditional modalities for stopping drinking alcohol include AA,
Yeah.
Alcoholics Anonymous, rehab, dry January, sober October, uh, interventions, and then the most ineffective of all, which is willpower. And willpower and motivation, doing it on your own. That's the most ineffective. How we do it differently is we bring in science. So we are constantly interviewing Cambridge University professors, Oxford, Harvard, all the best researchers that are out there on happiness, addiction, mindset, wellness. And then we bring those modalities into our coaching program. And so we take a very neuroscience based approach to this. We explain what is going on with our dopamine receptors when we drink. We explain how not drinking heals the dopamine receptors. We show people how to get dopamine release from natural and holistic endeavors that doesn't involve drinking alcohol. And so it's not even really a stop drinking program. It's really a personal development program through the lens of stopping drinking. So when I say we take a neuroscience based approach, it's really having an understanding of what makes a human being happy, what makes a human being stressed and anxious, what's going on in the neurons of our brain when we consume alcohol, when we are anxious, when we're stressed, when we have our bare feet on the sand or on the grass, when you, James, are in the ocean surfing every day, as I know you do. What is going on there? That's the neuroscience that we bring, as opposed to what happens in AA, which is you got to surrender to this higher power. I am powerless over this disease. I have to go through these 12 steps program. I must be sober. I need to stop. Instead, we're looking at empowering the human being, right? And instead of saying no to alcohol, we're saying yes to an alcohol free lifestyle, to a style of life. You referenced the scientific study. The University of Washington conducted a scientific study on our neuroscience based stop drinking process in the first quarter of 2023. And what they found was a 98% reduction in drinking amongst the study participants. Now, if you compare that to AA's reported success rate of 7%, there's a Cambridge University professor named Professor David Bellin, who's considered one of the world's top addiction experts, and he described that 98% reduction result as groundbreaking, which is great. I plastered it all over my marketing, which is very
So
helpful.
I'd go big on that.
Yeah. So yeah, neuroscience and empowering people and doing it in a fun way and in a like-minded community, as opposed to, oh, my life's terrible. I'm got to talk about the past and I'm filled with shame and regret and I've got to surrender to this power and this disease. I call BS on all of that
Yeah, I've
stuff.
only ever
And
seen it in movies, but it doesn't seem like a process that would work for me, uh, for
I
sure.
would submit no.
Sitting
It would
around in
not
a
work for you.
circle. I'm also concerned about the cohort that you might be hanging out with. I don't know. It just seems a bit unusual. I like the way you approach it. I like the support mechanism you've put in place. I'm also curious about how's your message changed, or what learnings have you had since you started the program? It sounds like you've been going for about 10 years to now. Like, is there things you've learned along the way that have changed the way you think about it or the way you deliver a result for someone?
Mm. I'll answer through the lens of an entrepreneur listening in terms
Yeah.
of the marketing and demographics, and then I'll answer in terms of how we've actually supported our clients. As it relates to entrepreneurial world, in the beginning, I tried to help people stop drinking, and it was modestly successful. When I changed it to I'm here to help high achievers stop drinking, and high achievers means executives, entrepreneurs, physicians, GPs, doctors, real estate people, well educated, articulate working professionals, the business exploded by comparison. So, the big lesson I learned there from a business perspective is stop trying to help everybody and get very clear on who your demographic is. Who is your dream avatar? And then just go deep with them. And even today, I have people coming at me from all angles offering me to do joint venture deals, or we'll do this app and we'll help millions of people. And I just politely say no, because I'm thrilled that we help high achievers. I'm thrilled that I'm not just helping women like one of my competitors does. I'm thrilled that we're not helping everyone. As much as I want to help everyone, I can't create the same level of impact than who I help now, which is the demographic that I've chosen. In terms of the second part of that, which is how has our coaching changed over the years and how is the impact? Um, Pretty similar in the sense is that when I put our members in a like-minded community, not a community, but a like-minded community. Okay. So a community is you go into an AA meeting and you're sitting next to a 19-year-old meth addict who's holding up gas stations.
That's what I
And
was
you're a
talking about.
45-year-old man and you're married and got two kids and you're listening to this person talking about going to a
It's
nightclub and getting,
unrelatable.
yeah, you just can't relate to that
Yeah.
person. And so people don't want to be in that environment. But when you put people in an environment where they go, oh, that person's like me. Oh, that's very similar. Oh, okay, that person speaks like me, looks like me, does the same thing as me. They're articulate, they work. Then change becomes not just possible, but probable, because the incentive is to keep showing up and the incentive is to support the other folks as well as getting the support and create allies. And so I'd love to say that we're so smart and our neuroscience based way is so genius, but really it's been putting like minded people together delivering them the neuroscience, and then letting the community take over as an incredible accountability tool.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's actually it's aligned the same things that I've discovered. Trying to get people at a minimum level makes it more exciting for the people in there. People don't want to be in a group with people who are wildly different because it just makes too much friction. I'm just curious, while I've got you, it's a bit of an obvious question, but could you pick off a couple of common myths about quitting alcohol that are not true? Tell us why they're wrong, because I feel like we already covered one, right? That you can't have fun without alcohol. And we've also picked off the one that says, oh, it's not harmful to have alcohol. It's good for you to have a glass of red wine. We know that study was flawed. And the ones that I've seen say there's actually zero benefits for alcohol. It's only if you just have very, very little that you might reduce the damage that it does. So there's a couple we've already done, but are there a couple more?
Yeah. The fact that, or the myth, I should say, that alcohol relaxes you and
Right.
relieves you of stress and anxiety. The reality is that it provides temporary and illusionary relief, but what it actually does is that it creates more of the very stress and anxiety that you're drinking alcohol to try to combat.
That
So
sounds
that
like a highly tuned biz op offer. It's got, temporary distortion of reality. You buy into the dream, and then you have this huge credit card bill and a impossible business that never gets off the ground.
yes, yes. You get to this point where you're drinking to try to relieve yourself of the symptoms that drinking is causing you.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Now you're stuck in this perpetual cycle.
Yeah.
So that's a big myth. Another big myth in the business world is that you need alcohol to close a deal or to entertain
Oh,
clients
yeah, yeah. Wine and dine.
or, yeah, wine and dine them. I can tell you I've been alcohol free for 15 years, since 2010. My business seems to do okay. I've
Mate, your
done
business
deals.
does really okay. I can tell you. You're one of my go-to examples when someone tells me, "Oh, the market's down or business is tough." I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I've seen otherwise." I think also you have a classic scenario, like you have the dream situation. You're in a market that's growing, and you have a product that has a 98% plus success rate. That's a pretty good combo.
Mm.
Plus, you're well rested and sound of mind. Like triple win.
I'll tell you what I most enjoy. Uh, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar in West Palm Beach, Florida last December. It was called Date with Destiny. It's this big 6-day flagship event that he has. And I like Tony Robbins. I've been following him for years, but he says that there are 6 human needs. And when we have these needs met, life is really good. And if when some of them aren't met, then life is somewhat compromised. And I hope I'm going to do it justice and be able to clearly outline the 6 needs here. But there's certainty. We all require some level of certainty about our life. We require uncertainty about our life. Like we don't want everything to be certain. We want a little bit of like uncertainty about the future. We definitely want love and connection. We want significance. We want contribution. And there's one thing else I'm missing. But I knew I was going to mess it up. There's one thing else. All right. But in any case, let's just say I got 5 of the 6. Oh, I know what it is. Growth. It's growth. We want to feel like we're growing. Okay. All of my 6 human needs are met with this business because it serves my mission. Like I have significance because I'm the CEO and founder, and people look to me and clients thank me. I've got growth. There are always challenges in the business. With each kind of level we go up, I've got to grow and stretch and new problems to solve, new people to hire, people to fire, like changes to be made, that market's changing. I get love and connection because all of the clients
Oh, the
love
gratitude must be significant. The people who get results.
it. I think it's unparalleled.
Yeah.
When you can help someone get off alcohol, wow, they just absolutely idolize you. And I
It's like
don't
for
take
me, if
that.
I can help someone free themselves up from the grind or get some comfort in their life when they've been sloshed around. They really do send a lot of gratitude, and
They really
it's
do,
felt.
yeah. So all of those things, I know I didn't go through each example of the six human needs, but I've gone through this and I've gone, wow, all of my six human needs are met with this business. And so I feel really good about it. Yes, I have irritable moments and I say the F word a lot when things don't go
That
as they
makes you
want. But
human. You're not.
yeah,
We're still not singularity AI tuned cyborgs yet. We're still just human beings at the end of the day, fragile, little vulnerable mistake makers, doing our best to propagate.
yeah. But yeah, that's why I love it, and even though, thank you for pointing out that, the timing is good, the market's right, it's a good product, and that's great. But I think more than that, more than just like good market conditions, I really enjoy it. And I think that's enabled me to persist for 10 years.
You've had plenty of challenges, and you just blast through them because you love what you do. You could easily have mismanaged the opportunity or not put yourself in that situation in the beginning. So, like, really, a lot of credit has to go to you. And I think other people have recognized it. I noticed you got some pretty heavy hitter names there endorsing the book. A previous podcast guest of this show, Nia IL, isn't he an awesome guy? He gave it high praise, and he's somewhat of a very much an academically qualified person in the sort of roles of addiction.
Yes, yeah, he's one of the world's leading addiction experts as it relates to not so much drugs and alcohol, but screens and the way that the social media companies capture our attention. He wrote a great book called Indistractable. And yeah, Mark Manson, who wrote the book The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F, also endorsed it. And I've quoted James Clear from Atomic Habits in the book because I interviewed him for my clients a few years back, and I've included him in the book. And Keith Ferrazzi, who's a New York Times best-selling author of the book Never Eat Alone, has endorsed it, and he's featured in the book. So yeah, it was funny because I felt really awkward reaching out to people and asking for them to write a sentence for the praise section of the book. It's so awkward. At least it felt awkward for me, but I was very pleasantly surprised that those who I requested were actually more than happy to put their name to it, including you, James. I appreciate you
Well, from
giving
my
your
perspective, I
endorsement.
mean, I have a good for humans filter. Anyone I coach, anything that I do, I want it to be good for humans. And I mean, I've experienced the benefits of easing right back on the alcohol in my personal life and seen the power of what you've been doing firsthand. I love what you do. It's brilliant. That's why I try to support you any way I can, because it's a message that could help a lot of people. Speaking of actionable help, what would be a couple of things, like, obviously when people come into your program, there's a great system for it. They can definitely, and I'd recommend go and get the book. There'll be guidelines in there. What's a couple of things maybe we can, even as we switch off from this podcast, that we can incorporate from today?
Start thinking about choosing an alcohol free lifestyle. And let's just focus on the word lifestyle for a moment. It's a style of life. And that style of life is clarity, focus, energy, good sleep, getting your feet on the ground, conscious communication, being present with your husband or wife, being present with your kids, being peaceful, calm, being a moralistic person, doing the right thing. That's a style of life. And that's what I would submit the alcohol free lifestyle is. On the contrary to that, you have an alcohol fueled life, which is drinking poison, which makes you do things you don't want to do, disrupts your sleep, leads to you not being present with your kids, leads to you being irritable, snappy, getting into arguments you ordinarily wouldn't get into, carry a few extra pounds of unwanted body weight, you lose your confidence, you feel stuck, you get in a rut, you start to drift. That's what I would submit most drinkers are experiencing. And so I would just leave the listener or the viewer with that, which is choose a style of life. You're not saying no to alcohol, you're saying yes to an alcohol free lifestyle. You're not depriving yourself of fun and joy by not drinking. You're creating even more fun and joy by not drinking. So it's just It's a little play on words. It's what I call a flipperoonie. Like we're changing it from, oh, I need to stop drinking to I get to be alcohol free. We're changing it from I need a drink to relax to I get to relax in holistic ways. So if we just change that little outlook, it can have profound generational impact in our families' lives.
I wonder if this is right or wrong. When I look at heavily tattooed people, I sometimes feel like they gave in or they have something that they haven't dealt with yet. I know that they might be wrong, but similar in people who drink too much, I wouldn't say pity, but I feel like they haven't figured it out yet. Is it elitist to think that drinking less alcohol is the prize and people, working their way towards it? Because that sort of helps me not ever feel like I'm missing out. I feel like they're missing out.
I probably wouldn't use the word elitist, but you're identifying as a high achiever, just
Yeah.
like in the subheadline of the book, right? Your
It's a cheat
identity
code.
is,
It really is a
yeah,
cheat code.
exactly. James Schramko identifies as a high achiever. He identifies as someone who values his health, his family's health, his clients, his business, his friends, his colleagues. He values conscious communication. That is a high achiever. So I wouldn't say that it's elitist, but I would say that that's your identity. And what a great identity that is, I would submit.
It's a healthy
So,
one for me anyway. Well, it's giving me the outcomes I want.
yes.
It reminds me of that. There's a meme that goes around. Maybe I even saw it on your site, but it's like when you're a kid, you're trying to sneak away to get to the party to drink, and when you're an adult, like where I'm at now, I'm trying to get away from the party to go home and sleep.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's interesting? I've started thinking of myself as a professional sleeper.
Yeah,
So I'm stepping into that identity of I am a world class professional sleeper. And so that's been enabled me to decline a couple of dinner invitations, and those I haven't declined. I've said, "Hey, let's have dinner at 6." And they're like, "6? What are you talking about?" I go, "I like to eat early." And they cave and they come and do it. And that enables me to finish my meal by 7:30, which means I can go to sleep around 10:30, and not have that food lingering in my stomach disrupting my sleep.
it's like I'll never do podcasts at 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. or whatever. Look, I used to do that 10 years ago, especially when I felt I probably needed to. But that's a no compromise zone now. I don't work before 9 a.m. and I do one late call once a week because I need to serve that market, but it's done by 9 p.m. and I've already had dinner and tucked my daughter in, read her stories and stuff by that time. So it's like I hang up and then do my routine. But that's it. It's a no compromise situation, and I feel better for it. I hope there's some ideas have come out of this podcast that will inspire someone to just think about alcohol consumption in a new light. Absolutely, the book, Clear, the only neuroscience-based method for high achievers to finally break free from alcohol. You can find out more about it at alcoholfreelifestyle.com. If you go to /clear on that site, you'll get information about the book. It's also available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. How do we get in touch with you or your team, James?
Yeah, you can send me an email at james@alcoholfreelifestyle.com. You can also send me a DM on my Instagram account. I think we're heading towards 300,000 followers there, and that account is really all about supporting people stop drinking. So that might be another welcome resource for you as well.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming along. This episode's 1116 up there on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Thank you.
This is James Schramko.